You are about to discover why reality always obeys belief. Within these timeless teachings, you'll awaken to the hidden power of assumption and the way it bends life to your decree. What you know to be true becomes true. Reality obeys belief. Introduction. Across centuries, seekers of hidden wisdom discovered a law older than the stars themselves. Reality does not bend to fleeting wishes, but to the silent decree of belief. When this is grasped, you behold the universe as a perfect mirror, ever faithful to the convictions that live within you. A passing thought is like a seed carried by the wind, but belief is the seed planted deep, tended with feeling, and guarded until it becomes unshakable. Such roots grow into the architecture of your life. The universe makes no distinction between what you whisper in daylight and what you hold secretly in the chambers of your soul. It reflects both with equal precision. This is why fortune seems to follow some like a shadow of light, while others stumble through cycles of lack. No external hand of fate governs these outcomes. Only belief writes the pattern. What you have accepted as true has always commanded your experience. You are not being taught a novelty. You are remembering what has pulsed within your spirit all along. Every scene you have ever lived unfolded by the authority of your assumptions, spoken or unspoken. The only change now is that you awaken to your authorship. This teaching is not a call to optimism or surface thoughts, but to the hidden power of settled knowing. What you claim in the depths of certainty, reality must obey. For this is the eternal law, the same current that carried sages, mystics, and masters through the ages. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Part 1. The Foundations of Inner Command. Chapter 1. The Hidden Engine of Assumption. In the quiet village of Millbrook, a tale unfolded that would unveil one of life's most potent mysteries. Each morning, Lydia tended her garden, speaking words of love to every flower and plant. "You are beautiful," she would whisper to the roses. "You are strong," she assured the saplings. As weeks passed, neighbors marveled at how her garden flourished beyond all others, its colors more vibrant, its blooms more abundant. Yet the true wonder lay not in the garden itself, but in the revelation it offered. For just as Lydia's flowers responded to her loving attention, so too does all of life respond to your innermost assumptions. Your deep-seated beliefs about yourself and the world around you act as invisible commands, shaping reality with the same certainty as a sculptor shapes clay. This truth manifested clearly in the life of Harold, whose small bakery sat at the heart of town. Where others saw uncertainty in changing times, Harold held an unshakable knowing that his store would prosper. He didn't merely hope for success, he assumed it as naturally as breathing. Each morning, as he kneaded dough and warmed his ovens, he carried within him the quiet certainty that his shop would overflow with warmth and welcome faces. And so it was. Customers found themselves drawn to his store, speaking of an indefinable atmosphere that made them feel at home. His bread seemed to carry a special sweetness, his pastries a particular light. Yet it wasn't Harold's baking skill alone that created this magic. It was the absolute conviction he held about his store's destiny. These stories illuminate a fundamental truth. The world shapes itself around your assumptions with perfect precision. When you assume something to be true, not with conscious effort, but with the natural ease of accepting that water is wet, the universe conspires to make it so. Your assumptions are the invisible architects of your experience, silently building the framework upon which your reality unfolds. As you lay your head upon your pillow tonight, allow yourself to sink into a scene where your heart's desire has already manifested. See it clearly, feel it deeply, as though it exists now. Perhaps you witness yourself in perfect health, or surrounded by abundance, or embraced by love. Let your body relax into the joy of this reality. Feel the relief of its completion, the naturalness of its presence in your life. Continue this gentle practice until the scene feels as real as a memory, as true as your own name. For in that space between waking and sleeping, when your conscious mind grows quiet, your assumptions take root most deeply, and reality begins its faithful work of matching your inner knowing. Chapter 2. The Mirror Effect of the Universe. Within your own life, this mirror principle reveals itself with unwavering precision. Take Clara, whose days once echoed with an inner chorus of doubt. In every social gathering, she carried an assumption of rejection so deeply embedded that it colored her entire world. Her shoulders would curve inward, her voice would soften to near silence, and her eyes would seek the safety of empty corners. The universe, being the faithful servant of inner conviction, dutifully reflected her beliefs back to her through canceled plans and unreturned calls. Yet the mirror that seemed to show only isolation was merely returning the image Clara held within. This truth became clear when she witnessed how others who radiated certainty in their worth drew connection effortlessly to them. The world was not conspiring against her. It was simply matching, with perfect accuracy, the picture she held of herself. This principle found another expression through Edward, a skilled tailor in the market district. For years, he had sewn beautiful garments while carrying an assumption that others judged his work harshly. He would scrutinize each stitch with anxiety, expecting criticism even from satisfied customers. But something shifted when he began imagining himself as deeply respected in his craft. At first, it felt unnatural, like wearing someone else's clothes. Yet each morning, before opening his shop, Edward would pause and allow himself to feel the quiet dignity of mastery. He didn't force this new self-image. He simply allowed it to settle into his bones, like morning dew absorbing into soil. Gradually, he noticed customers regarding him differently. They sought his opinion more eagerly, recommended him more frequently, and spoke of his work with genuine admiration. The mirror had shifted because Edward's inner reflection had changed. The world responded not to his hopes or wishes, but to his settled assumption of what was true about himself. Here lies your own path of transformation. For the next 5 minutes each day, find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and allow yourself to sink into a vision of who you truly wish to be. Perhaps you see yourself radiating confidence, speaking with wisdom, or moving through life with graceful purpose. Don't strain to make this image real. Simply rest in it, as naturally as you would recall a cherished memory. Feel these qualities already alive within you, as present as your heartbeat. Watch how life's great mirror, ever faithful to your deepest assumptions, begins reflecting back this inner truth in countless subtle ways. Chapter 3. speaking the language of reality. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, Mabel sat at her wooden workbench, threading needles and mending garments. Each day she whispered to herself, "Nothing ever works out for me," as her fingers worked the fabric. And true to her words, orders dwindled, threads tangled, and customers grew scarce. Yet one morning, as sunlight streamed through her window, Mabel noticed how the light transformed ordinary dust motes into dancing golden specks. This simple observation sparked a revelation. If mere sunlight could transmute dust into gold, perhaps her words held similar power. With newfound awareness, she began to listen to her inner dialogue. "I am blessed with skilled hands," she started saying. "My work brings joy." To her amazement, within weeks, her craftsmanship improved, and satisfied customers began spreading word of her talent throughout the town. The universe operates as an infinite mirror, reflecting back the essence of your sustained beliefs with unfailing precision. Every thought charged with feeling becomes a seed planted in the fertile soil of universal consciousness. These seeds grow into the circumstances of your life, following the exact pattern of your emotional convictions. Raymond, a watchmaker in the same town, exemplified this truth. For years he described his business as struggling and difficult, and so it remained. Then, inspired by a dream, he shifted his language. "My shop prospers," he declared each morning. "Customers value my expertise." Soon, his repairs gained recognition, and wealthy collectors sought his services. His new narrative rewrote his reality. This mirrors an ancient truth. The universe responds not to casual wishes, but to the language of certainty. When you speak of your desires as present facts, reality must reorganize itself to match your proclamation. Your words carry creative force, shaping the invisible substance from which all circumstances emerge. The practice handed down through generations of wisdom keepers is elegantly simple. Select one phrase that captures your desired reality as if it already exists. Perhaps, "I am surrounded by abundance," or "joy flows naturally through my days." Speak this truth aloud 3 times each morning, letting the words resonate in your body until they become the natural language of your mind. The universe will have no choice but to echo your new declaration. This ancient ritual aligns your being with the creative power that shapes worlds. Through consistent practice, you will witness your chosen words transform from mere sounds into the architecture of your experience. Chapter 4. The Currency of Feeling. Through generations, mystics and sages have whispered of a truth so simple, yet so transformative. Your feelings shape the very fabric of existence. In distant times, a young artist named Ethel discovered this wisdom through her own journey of awakening. Each morning, Ethel would pour pure joy into her paintings, letting her brush dance across the canvas with unbridled delight. Yet, when potential buyers visited her small studio, she withdrew into doubt, believing herself unworthy of success. Her art sang with vitality, but her spirit whispered of inadequacy. Then something remarkable began to unfold. On days when she lost herself in the pure pleasure of creation, forgetting her doubts entirely, visitors appeared as if summoned by the joy itself. They spoke not just of her technique, but of how her work made them feel, as though happiness had been captured in color and form. This truth extends far beyond art, touching every aspect of life's grand tapestry. Your feelings are not merely responses to what exists. They are the very seeds from which tomorrow's garden grows. When you invest emotion into a vision of what could be, the universe receives it as a deposit that must earn its return. In the fertile fields of a distant valley, a farmer named Walter embraced this principle with remarkable results. Before his crops had shown even the first green shoots, he would walk his land at dawn, his heart overflowing with gratitude for the abundance yet to come. He felt the fullness of his harvest while his fields still lay bare. Soon, his land yielded fruit with uncommon generosity, as though nature itself responded to his emotional investment. The principle stands revealed. Feeling is the language the universe understands most clearly. When you emanate the feeling of an accomplished wish, you speak in a tongue that existence cannot resist translating into physical form. Your emotional state is not a passive response to life. It is an active force shaping what is yet to be. This brings us to an ancient practice, passed down through countless generations of those who understood the creative power of feeling. Find a quiet moment, free from the world's clamor. Hold your desire gently in your mind, but focus not on its absence. Instead, immerse yourself in the feeling of its completion. Let this sensation wash through you until it becomes more real than any sense of lack. Persist in this practice until the feeling of fulfillment becomes your natural state of being. This is how reality transforms, not through force or struggle, but through the quiet power of directed feeling, held steady in the heart, until the outer world has no choice but to mirror your inner state. Chapter 5. Belief versus Hope. Through the ages, those who have unlocked life's deepest mysteries understand that hoping is a veiled form of doubt. Such was the lesson waiting to unfold through Pearl, whose heart yearned for a profound connection while her mind whispered, "Someday." Each morning, Pearl would gaze at herself in the mirror, hoping that love would find her. She adorned herself with grace and kindness, yet maintained a peculiar distance from the very thing she desired. "I hope to meet someone special," she would say, unknowingly pushing her desire further into an uncertain future. The universe responds not to wishes cast into tomorrow, but to convictions held in the present moment. Hope, though seemingly positive, carries within it the seeds of separation. It is a subtle declaration that what you seek exists apart from you, in some distant time or place. When you hope, you acknowledge absence. When you believe, you embrace presence. This distinction holds the power to transform your entire existence. The currency of creation is not measured in the intensity of wanting, but in the depth of acceptance. Franklin, a carpenter whose hands shaped wood with extraordinary skill, discovered this truth through his own journey. For years, he hoped his craftsmanship would be recognized, always peering into a future where his work might be valued. But something shifted when he stopped hoping and began knowing. "My work is appreciated," he would say with quiet certainty, feeling the truth of these words in his bones. He no longer sought validation, but lived from a space of inner acknowledgement. Within weeks, word of his artistry spread through the village, and those who sought excellence in woodcraft began appearing at his door. The lesson shines clear. Hope keeps you forever reaching, while belief allows you to receive. One gazes outward with longing, the other rests in the calm assurance of possession. As for Pearl, when she shifted from hoping for love to knowing love's presence in her life, the very air around her changed. She no longer carried the energy of seeking, but emanated the warmth of one who knows their worth. The ancient practice passed down through generations of wisdom keepers is elegantly simple. Replace every "I hope" with "I know" in your inner dialogue. Let this be your practice in the sacred hours of each day, until certainty flows naturally where wish once resided. Your words shape the vessel into which life pours its gifts. Make it a vessel of knowing, not of hoping. Chapter 6. The Invisible Choices We Make. In a small village, Dorothy watched with fascination as her modest kitchen became a testament to the power of inner conviction. Each morning, as she prepared her dishes, she noticed a peculiar truth unfold. The meals that she crafted with absolute certainty of their excellence invariably drew the highest praise, while those touched by doubt often met with tepid responses. It wasn't the ingredients that changed, but rather her unwavering expectation of delight that seemed to infuse the very essence of her cooking. The universe speaks not through words, but through the silent language of assumption. Your deepest expectations weave the fabric of your experience, creating patterns more enduring than any conscious decision. When you truly grasp this principle, you understand that every moment of your life flows from a choice already made in the sanctuary of your beliefs. Leonard, the village barber, embodied this truth without knowing its name. Where others saw chaos in their daily affairs, he held an unshakable assumption that his days unfolded in perfect order. Clients arrived at precisely the right intervals, conversations flowed with natural grace, and even the most challenging situations resolved themselves with remarkable ease. He never planned this harmony. He simply knew it as his natural state, and the universe aligned itself to match his knowing. This reveals a fundamental truth. Assumption is the highest form of choice. While the world speaks of decisions made through action, the real choice happens in those quiet moments, when you settle into a particular way of seeing yourself and your life. These assumptions, held steady in your heart, become the invisible architects of your experience. Most never realize they are choosing at all, believing instead that life simply happens to them. Yet in every moment, your assumptions are silently directing the flow of events, drawing to you circumstances that match your deepest beliefs about what is possible and what is true for you. The power lies not in hoping for a different tomorrow, but in assuming a new truth today. When you shift your assumption, you alter the very foundation upon which your reality builds itself. This is not a mere change of thought, but a transformation of your entire relationship with existence. Tonight, as you close your eyes, choose deliberately one simple belief, a day filled with harmony, and let your mind steep in it until sleep carries it into creation. Chapter 7. The Law of Inner Causation. In a small coastal village, Minnie spent her days running a modest seaside inn, watching waves of misfortune crash against her door. Each morning brought new trials, difficult guests, mounting expenses, and endless repairs. "The world conspires against me," she would whisper, casting blame upon the tides of circumstance that seemed to buffet her shores. Yet within the depths of her heart, a truth lay waiting to surface. Through countless seasons of struggle, she had never noticed how her expectation of hardship painted each sunrise with the colors of conflict. Her inner dialogue was a constant rehearsal of anticipated problems, and life, being the faithful mirror it is, reflected back precisely what she held within. The universe operates through an unwavering principle. Nothing can take root in your experience without finding soil in your consciousness. What appears as external causation is merely the flowering of seeds planted in the garden of your mind. Every circumstance, every encounter, every apparent obstacle exists only through your inner permission. This truth became clear to Ralph, a merchant whose shop sat at the village square. For years he had encountered endless disputes with suppliers, customers, and fellow traders. His days were filled with friction, each interaction seeming to confirm his belief in the inherent difficulty of commerce. Then came the moment of transformation. As Ralph sat among his ledgers one evening, a realization dawned. His constant anticipation of conflict was itself the source of every dispute. With this understanding, he began to shift his inner stance. Rather than preparing for battle each morning, he cultivated an unwavering assumption of harmonious exchange. The change that followed seemed almost mysterious. Disputes that had once dominated his days began to dissolve. Challenging customers became cooperative. Supplier relationships smoothed themselves out, and the very atmosphere of his shop transformed. He had not altered a single external condition. He had simply withdrawn his unconscious permission for discord to exist in his world. This principle operates with mathematical precision in every area of life. What you see as external causes are merely echoes of internal choices. The world cannot impose what you do not accept in consciousness. Your assumptions are the invisible sculptors of your experience, carving reality from the raw marble of possibility. When disturbance appears in your life, trace it back to its source within. What belief have you been harboring that allows this condition to persist? What silent permission have you granted to this unwanted circumstance? The practice is simple, yet profound. When faced with any discord, pause and journey inward. Find the root assumption that feeds it, and there plant a new seed of harmony. Declare silently, but with conviction. I now withdraw all power from this condition and establish peace in its place. Watch as the outer world realigns itself with your renewed inner command. Chapter 8. The Gravity of Certainty. In ancient wisdom, there exists a law more reliable than the rising sun, the law of certainty. Like gravity itself, your convictions possess a magnetic force that draws circumstances into their orbit. Witness Ivy, whose thoughts once spiraled endlessly around lack. Each morning she would count her coins with trembling fingers, her mind weaving elaborate tales of future want. Yet in one sacred moment, as she watched a bird build its nest outside her window, understanding dawned within her heart. Nature provides for even its smallest creatures without their anxious planning. In that instant, she allowed herself to accept that abundance flows as naturally as air. From that day forward, Ivy felt a subtle shift in the fabric of her experience. No longer did she chase after provision. Instead, she rested in the knowing that it moved toward her by divine law. Just as objects are drawn to earth without effort, her needs began meeting their fulfillment with quiet precision. Opportunities appeared, resources multiplied, and the very air around her seemed charged with possibility. The teaching speaks clearly. Certainty operates as an invisible force, arranging circumstances according to its nature. Your role is not to make things happen, but to maintain the unwavering inner knowing that draws them to you. Stanley, a man who had struggled with fatigue, discovered this truth in his own way. Rather than fighting against weakness, he began holding steady the image of vibrant health in his consciousness. He did not hope for energy. He knew it as his natural state. Each morning, he would sit quietly and feel the vitality flowing through his body, accepting it as present fact rather than future possibility. Day by day, his energy began to mirror his inner conviction. His steps grew lighter, his mind clearer, and his body stronger. He had not changed his outer routine. He had simply allowed his certainty to exert its natural gravitational pull on physical conditions. This is the supreme law. What you accept as absolutely true in consciousness cannot help but materialize in experience. The universe responds not to wishes or wants, but to the unshakable knowing that resides in your heart. The ancient practice for wielding this power is elegantly simple. Each morning, as the first light touches the horizon, sit quietly and speak these words, "It is already mine." Feel the calm gravity of this truth, sensing how it pulls reality into perfect alignment with your inner knowing. Let the certainty settle into your bones until it becomes as natural as breathing. For in this state of quiet assurance lies the power that moves mountains and shapes worlds. Chapter 9. The Symphony of Mind and Spirit. In a small village known for its music, Agnes sat at her piano each evening, her fingers hovering above the keys. Though blessed with remarkable talent, she perpetually wrestled with an inner storm of doubt. The melody lived in her heart, yet fear gripped her hands, creating a dissonance between her gift and its expression. The universe speaks through harmony. When thought and spirit unite, reality dances to their unified song. Just as a symphony requires all instruments to play in perfect accord, your inner forces must align to manifest your desires. When mind and soul join in agreement, the world has no choice but to mirror this harmony. Agnes discovered this truth one autumn evening. Instead of allowing her thoughts to spiral into worry, she began to align her thinking with her soul's knowing. As she sat at the piano, she let her mind whisper, "I am music itself," while her spirit sang the same truth. In that moment of inner agreement, her fingers found freedom, and the music flowed like a river breaking through a dam. This revelation unfolds further in Oliver's tale. A merchant who had long struggled with business decisions, Oliver learned to rehearse success not just in thought, but in the depths of his spirit. Each morning he would sit in silence, allowing his mind to envision prosperity, while his soul basked in peaceful certainty. He didn't just think about success, he allowed his entire being to resonate with it. Soon, opportunities appeared as naturally as leaves turning golden in fall. When your thoughts and spirit speak the same language, doubt cannot survive in their presence. Like two hands coming together in prayer, when mind and soul unite in purpose, they create a force that shapes circumstance. This unity generates a field of certainty so powerful that external conditions must conform to its pattern. Your inner agreement acts as a magnet, drawing to you the very experiences that match your harmonized state. When doubt arises in thought, yet your spirit remains anchored in truth, discord results. But when both align in perfect acceptance of good, life orchestrates itself to match this inner harmony. Sacred practice. As you prepare for sleep, create a sacred moment of alignment. Picture your mind as a clear voice saying yes to your heart's desire, while simultaneously feeling your spirit smile in complete agreement. Let these two aspects of your being, thought and soul, join in perfect harmony, creating a song of certainty about your chosen outcome. Maintain this unity until you drift into sleep, allowing this aligned energy to work through the night, weaving your desire into the fabric of reality. Chapter 10. The Throne of Imagination. Long before the crowds gathered, Nellie would sit in her quiet room, eyes closed, feeling the warmth of appreciation wash over her. In her mind's eye, she saw herself moving through life touched by celebration, as though a golden light followed her path. She held this image not as a dream, but as an unfolding truth, letting it settle into her bones until it felt more real than her current circumstance. The universe, ever faithful to the pictures held in consciousness, began orchestrating events in perfect harmony with her inner vision. What started as a gentle ripple of recognition soon swelled into a wave of acclaim that matched her imagined reality with stunning precision. Here lies the sacred wisdom. Imagination stands as the royal architect of existence. When you enthrone an image in your mind, clothing it with the feeling of reality, the universe moves heaven and earth to bring it into being. Your imagination is not a theater of empty wishes. It is the very workshop where reality is forged. Consider Clyde, who walked his modest fields each morning, seeing in his mind's eye crops so abundant they stretched beyond sight. He felt the weight of golden grain in his hands before a single seed was planted. He imagined the sweet problem of insufficient storage until that vision became more substantial than the empty barns before him. As surely as water flowed downhill, his imagined prosperity began taking physical form. The harvest exceeded all records, and soon the sound of hammers and saws filled the air as new barns rose to accommodate what his imagination had decreed. The correlation was undeniable. His inner vision had commanded, and physical reality had no choice but to obey. This reveals the supreme law. Imagination holds dominion over all circumstances. What you encode in your mental kingdom eventually manifests in your physical realm. The power does not lie in hoping or wishing, but in assuming the royal position of knowing that what you imagine must come to pass. Your practice. Tonight, assume your rightful place on the throne of imagination. Seat yourself quietly where your desire is already fulfilled. Feel the velvet reality of its completion surrounding you. Let your body relax into the certainty that what you imagine has no choice but to materialize. Hold this royal court until the feeling of fulfillment becomes as natural as breathing. The kingdom of reality will begin its faithful adjustments to match your imaginative decree. Part 2. The Mastery of Belief in Motion. Chapter 11. The Seed Law of Belief. In a small garden shop filled with the scent of blooming flowers, Gertrude noticed something remarkable. The seeds she spoke to with tenderness sprouted faster, grew stronger, and blossomed more brilliantly than those left in silence. Day after day, She witnessed how these tiny kernels responded to the nourishment of attention and care. Through this simple observation, a greater truth unveiled itself. Belief operates by the same natural law as a seed. Just as a seed contains within itself the full pattern of its future expression, so too does belief hold the complete blueprint of its manifestation. Your beliefs are not mere thoughts. They are living seeds planted in the fertile soil of consciousness. Each one contains unlimited potential, waiting to be awakened by your nurturing attention. When you plant a belief and tend it with consistent care, its growth becomes as certain as a flower turning toward the sun. Think of Chester, whose daily route once felt mechanical and draining. One morning, he planted a simple seed in his mind. Every delivery brings joy. He nurtured this thought with the same regularity he brought to his rounds, watering it with expectation and feeding it with attention. Gradually, this seed took root. Smiles began appearing where frowns once dwelt. Brief exchanges transformed into moments of genuine connection. His simple seed of belief had grown into a garden of warm encounters, proving that whatever is planted in consciousness must bear fruit in experience. The law is absolute. The seed always produces after its kind. Plant doubt and watch uncertainty grow. Plant confidence and watch assurance flourish. The harvest never contradicts the seed. It only multiplies its essence. This truth liberates you from the illusion of chance. You are not subject to random circumstances, but are instead the master gardener of your experience. Every belief you hold is a seed taking root, drawing to itself all elements needed for its expression. Your practice. This evening, select one seed thought that represents your desire already fulfilled. Plant it gently in the soil of your mind. Feel the joy of its future blossoming as you would admire a flower yet to bloom. Return to this seed regularly, watering it with your attention and nurturing it with your faith. Do not dig it up to check its progress or force its growth. Like any seed in nature, it will sprout in its perfect season, bringing forth fruit that matches exactly what you have planted. Chapter 12. The Power That Names the World. Long ago, Lillian carried discouragement like a heavy cloak, wrapping each setback in words of defeat. Another disappointment, she would say, another failure. And with each label, she unknowingly carved these experiences deeper into the bedrock of her reality. But wisdom speaks through the simplest moments. One afternoon, as she gazed at her garden, she noticed how differently she treated the plants she had named. The rose bush she called resilient flourished despite harsh weather. The herbs she labeled abundant multiplied without effort. In that quiet revelation, she understood the sacred power of naming. Every name you give to an experience becomes its identity in the universe. The labels you assign are not mere descriptions. They are commands that reality must follow. When you name something difficult, you grant it the authority to challenge you. When you declare it impossible, you seal its resistance with the power of your word. The ancient ones knew this truth. They understood that naming was not a passive act, but a divine privilege, the ability to define the nature of things. This power still flows through your words today, though you may have forgotten its presence. Eugene, the inventor, discovered this principle through necessity. His workshop once felt like a graveyard of failed attempts, each incomplete project weighing on his spirit. But something shifted when he began calling his unfinished works blueprints for success. The very same objects, under their new identity, transformed from symbols of defeat into stepping stones of progress. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, cannot help but conform to the names you give with conviction. It must reshape reality to match your declarations, for this is the law of creative power. What you name with certainty becomes true not by force, but by natural law. Your practice. Tonight, you will participate in this ancient art of naming. Choose one situation that has troubled you. In the quiet of your mind, give it a new name that speaks of success and growth. If financial strain has been your companion, name it abundance in training. If loneliness has walked with you, call it solitude preparing for connection. Speak this new name with the authority that comes from knowing your word carries power. Let the feeling of its truth settle into your bones. The universe will begin its quiet work of matching reality to match the new identity you have declared. Chapter 13. The Map of Inner Certainty. A map holds power only when we trust its guidance. Martha, who wandered through life feeling directionless, discovered this truth through an unexpected awakening. Each morning she yearned for clarity but found only fog, until she learned that belief itself draws the pathways of destiny. The universe responds not to what lies before your eyes, but to what lives within your mind with unwavering conviction. When you sketch a future in the studio of your imagination, you are not merely dreaming. You are drafting blueprints that reality must follow. Your inner certainty becomes the architect's pen, drawing roads where none existed before. Martha began spending quiet moments each day, not just wishing for direction, but seeing her path with crystal clarity. She painted mental pictures of herself arriving at her chosen destination, feeling the satisfaction of each milestone reached. Gradually, the fog lifted. Opportunities appeared like stepping stones across a stream, each one perfectly placed to lead her forward. The wisdom speaks. Life seldom provides detailed instructions in advance. Instead, it waits for you to declare the destination with absolute faith. Your belief becomes both compass and map, pointing the way and revealing the route simultaneously. When you hold an image of your desired outcome with steady conviction, the universe conspires to fill in the practical details of your journey. Horace, a man who once drifted without purpose, learned to harness this principle with remarkable results. Each evening, he would sit quietly and envision his future with vivid detail, not as a distant possibility, but as an approaching certainty. He saw himself achieving his goals with such clarity that doubt had no room to exist. As his inner map became more defined, external circumstances began to align. Doors opened precisely when needed. Introductions were made at crucial moments, and resources appeared as if summoned by his unwavering certainty. This reveals an eternal truth. The path emerges not from external circumstances, but from internal conviction. Your belief sketches the route, and reality cannot help but pave the way. The universe responds not to your wishes or hopes, but to the unshakable knowing that guides your inner vision. As you lay your head upon your pillow tonight, let your mind draw a map of completed destinations. See yourself standing at the very point you wish to reach, surrounded by the joy of arrival. Feel the satisfaction of the journey completed, the pride of challenges overcome. Let this vision be your last thought as sleep approaches, allowing your consciousness to anchor this map deeply in the realm where all creation begins. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. The Law Beyond Luck. Florence stood at her shop window each morning, counting customers and attributing busy days to mere fortune. Some days bring luck, others don't, she would say, surrendering her power to the winds of chance. Yet the universe holds a deeper truth. What appears as luck is but the faithful echo of inner conviction. When you understand that belief governs all outcomes, the concept of randomness dissolves like morning mist in sunlight. Every circumstance, every encounter, every opportunity flows from the reservoir of your settled assumptions. The universe operates not by chance, but by law, the law of belief that shapes all experience. Florence's transformation began when she glimpsed this truth. As she shifted from hoping for lucky days to knowing that abundance naturally flowed through her business, a remarkable change unfolded. Customers appeared not by chance, but drawn by the magnetic force of her newfound certainty. Her conviction that success was natural became a command that reality could not resist. Norman, who cast his nets in waters others deemed uncertain, discovered this same principle. For years he attributed good catches to fortune's smile and poor ones to her frown. But when he understood that belief alone determined his harvest, everything changed. He stopped scanning the horizon for luck and instead anchored himself in the certainty that abundance was his natural state. As Norman's conviction deepened, his nets began filling with such regularity that other fishermen spoke of his lucky spot. Yet Norman knew there was no luck involved. His certainty had simply commanded the universe, and it had no choice but to comply. Where others saw chance, he recognized the precise outworking of his own belief. The truth stands revealed. What appears as random chance is merely belief's perfect reflection. When you declare with unwavering certainty that something must be so, the universe marshals its forces to manifest that conviction. There are no accidents in a universe governed by belief, only the precise outworking of your inner assumptions. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, hold this thought with quiet intensity. Nothing is random. Everything bows to my conviction. Let this truth sink deeply into your consciousness, feeling luck dissolve into law. Your certainty becomes the command that reality must obey. Chapter 15. The Atmosphere of Faith. Long ago in a bustling marketplace, Jenny kept a small shop selling herbs and spices. Day after day, she noticed a peculiar pattern. When her spirit felt light, customers seemed drawn to her store like moths to flame. Yet on days when worry clouded her thoughts, even her most loyal patrons would pass by without a glance. At first, she dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidence, but as seasons turned, she could no longer deny the invisible thread connecting her inner state to the world around her. Her mood wasn't simply a private matter. It was an unseen force shaping reality itself. The truth stands eternal. Your emotional atmosphere creates a field that extends far beyond your physical presence. Like the sun warming the earth, your faith radiates outward, touching all who enter its sphere. This is not metaphor, but law, as real as gravity, as constant as the stars. Every moment, you emanate an energy that announces your deepest convictions before you speak a word. Those who approach can feel it, though they may not know its source. When you cultivate an atmosphere of abundance within, the outer world has no choice but to reflect this reality. Vernon, a merchant known for his volatile temper, discovered this truth through an unexpected turn. After years of constant conflict, he grew weary of the chaos surrounding him. In a moment of clarity, he chose to accept peace as his natural state, not as a distant goal, but as present reality. To his amazement, the very air around him seemed to shift. Arguments that once erupted in his presence began to dissolve before they could take root. People who approached him with complaints found themselves speaking in measured tones. Without conscious effort, he had created a field of tranquility that transformed his environment. The teaching speaks clear. Your faith is not merely belief, but atmosphere, an invisible yet tangible force that shapes circumstances before they materialize. Like a greenhouse nurturing specific conditions for growth, your inner climate determines what can flourish in your presence. This wisdom echoes through ages. You do not live in the world lives within the atmosphere of your consciousness. Change this, and everything changes with it. The practice. Find a quiet moment and settle into stillness. Begin breathing slowly, deliberately. With each inhale, recognize that you are drawing in not just air, but faith itself. With each exhale, feel peace flowing from your being into the surrounding space. Let this breath of faith and peace become your constant companion, creating an invisible sanctuary that moves with you wherever you go. Your atmosphere travels with you, transforming every room you enter, every conversation you join, every situation you face. Chapter 16. Belief as a Magnet. In a small town by the sea, Myrtle discovered an extraordinary truth through her own healing journey. For years, she had struggled with persistent ailments that seemed to linger despite traditional remedies. Yet when she began to hold an unwavering vision of vitality coursing through her body, something shifted. Her recovery accelerated as though touched by an unseen force. This simple observation unveils a universal principle. Belief operates as a magnetic field, silently but powerfully drawing circumstances that match its nature. Just as a magnet cannot help but attract its corresponding pole, your settled convictions inevitably manifest their equivalent in physical form. The universe responds not to what you wish for, but to what you accept as true in the depths of your being. Consider how a magnet's force field extends far beyond its visible form. Similarly, your beliefs create an invisible field of attraction that reaches into the furthest corners of your experience. This field knows no boundaries of time or space. It simply draws to you that which resonates with your inner certainty. In the bustling marketplace of life, Clydion exemplified this principle with striking clarity. Where others saw coldness in strangers, he maintained an unshakable knowing that love surrounded him everywhere. Soon, shopkeepers began offering him extra portions with warm smiles. Passers-by stopped to share kind words. Even children would wave to him from their windows. The love he knew existed began reflecting back to him through countless unexpected channels. His experience reveals that belief cannot remain passive or neutral. Like a magnet that never stops exerting its pull, your convictions continuously shape the substance of your days. Every thought held with certainty becomes a magnetic center, drawing experiences that mirror its essence. The power of this magnetic belief lies not in forcing change, but in maintaining steady conviction. Just as a magnet doesn't strain to attract, it simply is what it is. Your role is to hold your chosen truth with quiet confidence. The universe then moves naturally to align with your inner knowing. In the silence of your evening, find a peaceful moment and whisper softly to yourself, "I draw only good." Feel the magnetic current of this truth humming around you, knowing that this simple declaration sets in motion forces beyond your sight. Let this feeling of magnetic power surround you as you rest in the certainty that what you believe must manifest. Chapter 17. The Alchemy of Perspective. In the heart of a bustling market district, Sadie stood before her small shop each morning, watching potential customers pass by. Where once she saw only scarcity and competition, a subtle shift began to take root in her consciousness. Each person walking past transformed in her vision from a lost opportunity into a soul destined to find exactly what they needed within her walls. The universe operates through an ancient principle of transmutation. Just as the alchemists of old sought to transform base metals into gold, your perception holds the power to transmute the very substance of experience. This power lies not in changing outer circumstances, but in shifting the lens through which you perceive them. When Sadie began to see her modest shop location as the perfect position for connecting with those who truly valued her offerings, the energy of the space itself seemed to transform. Customers who previously hurried past now paused, drawn by an invisible force they couldn't explain. Her belief had kindled a fire that transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary. This sacred truth unveils itself. The alchemy of life occurs not in external elements, but in the crucible of consciousness. Your belief serves as the flame that transforms the lead of circumstance into the gold of opportunity. Malcolm, a craftsman, discovered this principle when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges in his workshop. Rather than viewing his limited resources as obstacles, he began to see them as teachers guiding him toward innovation. As his perception shifted, solutions emerged as naturally as dawn follows night. Tools that once frustrated him revealed hidden uses, and materials he had dismissed showed unexpected potential. What appeared as resistance became a hidden current of support, each challenge bowing before the authority of his transformed perspective. The obstacles didn't vanish. They transformed, becoming steps rather than barriers, guides rather than guards. This reveals the deepest mystery of spiritual alchemy. The transformation occurs not in the thing observed, but in the consciousness observing it. When you alter your perception, you change the very nature of what you perceive. The lead of circumstance has no choice but to reveal its golden nature when viewed through the lens of enlightened understanding. Tonight, as the world grows quiet, choose one matter that has troubled your peace. Look upon it with new eyes, declaring silently, "You are my secret ally, revealing pathways to greater good." Feel the truth of this declaration settling into your being, and watch as the alchemy of your faith begins its perfect work. Chapter 18. Belief writes the future. In the soft glow of morning, Della gazed through her window, her heart once heavy with dread, now light with anticipation. Each dawn had once loomed as a threat, carrying shadows of potential misfortune. Yet as she learned to reshape her view, the morning light began to whisper different promises. The universe operates with perfect precision, not in cold mechanics, but in responsive harmony to the beliefs you plant in the fertile soil of consciousness. When you step into tomorrow carrying certainty of good, that certainty becomes a lamp illuminating the very path you'll walk. Your beliefs reach across time itself, arranging circumstances long before you arrive at them. Just as a gardener's vision shapes the garden months before the first bloom appears, your settled convictions orchestrate the events you'll encounter. This is not mere positive thinking. It is the absolute law by which consciousness designs experience. Consider how Amos, preparing for his journey, did more than hope for smooth passage. He knew with quiet certainty that joy would attend every step. As he boarded his train, a cheerful conductor upgraded his seat without charge. When rain threatened his plans, it cleared precisely as he reached his destination. Even a missed connection led to a delightful conversation with a fellow traveler who became a cherished friend. These were not coincidences, but the natural fruit of his planted belief. The universe could offer nothing else, for it must match the inner vision he held with such clarity. Your tomorrow is not a mystery waiting to unfold. It is a canvas, waiting for the brush of your belief to paint upon it. The power to author tomorrow rests not in controlling circumstances, but in establishing the belief through which all circumstances must filter. When you know, truly know, that good attends your path, even seeming setbacks reveal themselves as secret advantages. This truth stands unchanging. Belief projected into tomorrow becomes the architect of that tomorrow's experiences. Your task is not to force events into place, but to hold steady the light of conviction that draws those events naturally into alignment. Thus, the ancient practice remains both simple and absolute. Before you rest tonight, speak with calm authority. Tomorrow is already blessed. Let these words sink deep into consciousness, knowing they are already arranging the hours to come. This is not a plea to the universe, but a quiet recognition of what is already true. The blessing is set. You need only walk forward in that knowing. Chapter 19. Harmony between seen and unseen. In the quiet village of Millbrook, Winifred spent her days questioning every step forward. Though blessed with natural talent in weaving, she struggled between what her heart knew possible and what her eyes witnessed in the moment. Each morning, she would gaze at her empty workshop, fighting the battle between inner vision and outer circumstance. The truth whispers that two realms exist simultaneously: the unseen realm of pure possibility and the visible world of manifestation. These realms are not in conflict, but in constant communion. Like music that exists first in silence before filling the air with sound, your desires live first in the unseen before emerging into view. Winifred's transformation began when she understood that doubt was not her enemy, but merely a signal that her inner and outer worlds needed gentle realignment. Rather than forcing herself to deny what her eyes saw, she learned to hold both realities with grace, honoring her vision while accepting the present moment's temporary appearance. In time, Her workshop began to reflect the harmony she had cultivated within. Orders appeared naturally, each one a bridge between what she had first seen in her heart and what now took shape before her eyes. In the merchant district across town, Jasper faced dwindling supplies in his trading business. Yet instead of frantically reacting to appearances, he maintained an unwavering inner knowing of abundance while calmly managing current inventory. He neither ignored the visible situation nor allowed it to shake his certainty. The unseen is always moving toward expression, he would remind himself, and my role is to keep the channel clear through steady faith. Within months, new trading routes opened unexpectedly. Partners emerged who had resources perfectly complementing his needs. The very shortages that had seemed to threaten his business became the catalyst for expansion. The unseen abundance he had held in mind crystallized into tangible form. These stories illuminate an eternal principle. When inner conviction and outer circumstances seem to conflict, the solution lies not in struggle, but in harmony. Like a masterful conductor, you need not force the orchestra, but simply maintain the proper tempo until all instruments naturally align. Your practice carries this wisdom forward. Each dawn, say within, the seen is catching up to the unseen, allowing both sides to work in peace together. This gentle acknowledgement creates the space for harmonious manifestation without strain or doubt. Chapter 20. Dwelling already arrived. In the quietude of her modest home, Edith had spent years chasing dreams through endless effort. Each morning brought renewed striving, each evening exhaustion, until one day she stumbled upon an ancient truth. As she sat in her garden, weary from perpetual seeking, a profound peace descended upon her. In that moment, she ceased reaching toward her vision and simply allowed herself to rest in its completion. The universe operates through an immutable law. Consciousness defines experience. When you dwell in the state of your desire fulfilled, reality has no choice but to conform to your inner residence. Like water, taking the shape of its container, life flows into the mold of your settled knowing. Edith discovered that true power lay not in reaching, but in being. As she lived from the end, feeling, thinking, and moving as though her aspirations were already manifest, the very air around her shifted. Her striving ceased, replaced by a quiet certainty that drew circumstances into perfect alignment. This truth found further expression through Rufus, whose story mirrors this sacred principle. Working in a merchant's office, he understood that promotion awaited not his effort, but his assumption. Each morning, he walked the streets not as one hoping to lead, but as one who already carried leadership in his bearing. He spoke not from desire, but from quiet possession. His conversations reflected not ambition, but natural authority. Within weeks, those around him began responding to this unspoken certainty. His colleagues naturally deferred to his guidance. His superiors increasingly sought his counsel. The outer world simply reflected what he had claimed within. When the announcement of his promotion finally came, it merely confirmed what his consciousness had long since established. The great secret lies in this: the world cannot help but echo your inner dwelling place. Where consciousness resides, reality must follow. This is not magic, but law, as absolute as gravity, as certain as dawn following night. To enter this state of living from the end requires no force, no strain. It asks only that you rest in the finished state of your desire, allowing your whole being to accept it as done. From this vantage point, you need not make things happen. You simply watch as the outer aligns with the inner, as naturally as a reflection appears in a mirror. Tonight, as you close your eyes, enter into your desire already finished and remain there until sleep confirms your residence. Part 3. Living as one whom reality obeys. Chapter 21. The Authority of Self-Image. In a small village, Beatrice lived with a shadow of unworthiness clouding her spirit. Each morning, as she arranged flowers in her window box, she would whisper to herself, "No one sees beauty in my work," and so it was. Passers-by hurried past without a glance, and her artistry remained invisible to the world. Yet, within the depths of consciousness, dwells a power greater than any outer circumstance. When you declare yourself worthy or unworthy, the universe has no choice but to agree. It cannot resist the authority of your self-image, for this is the first and final law of manifestation. Beatrice's transformation began when she understood that her own thoughts had painted her invisible. With gentle determination, she began to honor herself differently. Each bloom she placed became a declaration of her innate value. "I create beauty," she would say, "and beauty recognizes itself." Gradually, neighbors began to pause, admiring her window. Soon, they asked her to arrange flowers for their homes and celebrations. The teaching is absolute. Your self-concept is not a mere thought, but a command to the cosmos. Whatever you steadily believe about yourself must be reflected in the mirror of experience. The universe cannot argue with your deepest conviction about who you are. Howard, a merchant in the next town, discovered this truth when his business faltered. Rather than accepting defeat, he began carrying himself with quiet dignity. "I am worthy of respect and abundance," became his silent song. He spoke to customers as though his shop was already renowned, treating each transaction as though prosperity was natural. Within months, his store became a destination, sought out by those who sensed the atmosphere of success he had cultivated. The message rings clear as morning bells. Reality bows before the image you honor within. When you walk as one already blessed, blessed is what you must become. The power lies not in wishing or hoping, but in claiming and knowing. Tonight speak within, "I walk as one already chosen," and let your self-image carry the authority of fulfillment. Chapter 22. Flow with the invisible current. The story of Luella touches upon one of the most essential truths about the nature of belief and manifestation. In her shop, where she crafted delicate pottery, each day felt like pushing against an invisible wall. Her shoulders tensed with effort, her mind strained with worry, until that remarkable morning when everything changed. You see, the universe operates not through force, but through flow. As you release resistance, an unseen current begins to guide your path. Luella discovered this when she stopped fighting what seemed like opposition, and instead grew still enough to sense a subtle stream of energy moving through her life. The great law reveals itself. Belief creates a current in the fabric of existence. You need not struggle against life's apparent resistance. Rather, your role is to align with the flow that your conviction creates. When you trust in this stream, it carries you naturally toward your desired experience. In Luella's case, the simple act of surrendering to this flow transformed her days. Where once she had pushed and strained, She now moved with graceful certainty. Customers appeared at perfect moments. Materials arrived just as needed, and solutions presented themselves unbidden. Milton, a woodworker from the valley, embodied this principle with remarkable results. Instead of forcing circumstances or demanding outcomes, he simply assumed life's momentum always favored his journey. This quiet certainty created a current of synchronicity around him. Tools he needed would be offered before he sought them. Opportunities emerged as naturally as leaves unfurling in spring. The teaching stands clear. Belief does not struggle against reality. It creates a stream that reality must follow. When you trust this current, life rearranges itself to match your inner conviction. You do not need to make things happen. You allow them to unfold. Think of it as stepping into a river that already flows toward your good. Your belief is not a force pushing against the current, but rather the current itself. As you yield to this truth, you'll find yourself carried effortlessly toward your desires. The practice here is elegantly simple. Each morning, before engaging with the world, whisper softly to yourself, "I am carried." Let these words settle into your consciousness. Then step into your day as if borne by a gentle, guiding stream. Feel the subtle current of the universe supporting your every move, knowing that belief itself creates the flow that carries you forward. Chapter 23. The Mood That Creates Worlds. Life's subtlest forces work through the channel of sustained feeling. In a small village, Fanny crafted beautiful tapestries, yet noticed a peculiar pattern. When she worked in anxious haste, threads would tangle and colors would dim. But in moments of serene contentment, her creations seemed to weave themselves, each stitch falling perfectly into place. Through patient observation, she discovered that her persistent moods shaped not only her artistry, but every aspect of her world. Days colored by worry brought more causes for concern, while periods of calm acceptance drew harmonious circumstances like moths to flame. This truth echoes across the ages. What you feel consistently becomes the foundation of your experience. A mood, when held steady, transforms into a commanding force that reality cannot ignore. It speaks louder than words, moves mountains more surely than action, and arranges circumstances with an invisible hand. Your emotional atmosphere is not merely a response to life. It is life's blueprint. Every sustained feeling sends ripples through the fabric of existence, organizing events to match its nature. Joy maintained becomes a magnet for joyful encounters. Peace cultivated grows into peaceful circumstances. This wisdom found vivid expression through Truman, whose small bookshop struggled until he made a remarkable shift. Instead of waiting for success to lift his spirits, he chose to emanate the quiet joy of achievement before any outer change appeared. He moved through his days as though prosperity already filled his shelves. Soon, customers began arriving with unprecedented frequency. Rare volumes seemed to find their way to his door. His little shop, once quiet, hummed with the energy of success, all following the lead of his sustained inner atmosphere. The universe responds not to fleeting emotions, but to the mood you wear like a garment, day after day. Your persistent feeling tone becomes a command that reality must obey. Choose it with the same care you would choose a home to live in, for in truth, your habitual mood is your dwelling place in consciousness. Tonight, as the world grows quiet, Deliberately select a mood of ease. Let it settle over you like a gentle mist. Feel its texture, its lightness, its promise of grace. Allow this mood to saturate every cell until you become ease itself. Then rest in this chosen atmosphere, knowing the outer world has no choice but to reshape itself to mirror your inner climate. Chapter 24. The Art of Thanking Before Receiving. In a small town where hope seemed distant, Opal knelt each night by her bedside, pleading with the universe to grant her wishes. Her prayers grew more intense, more desperate with each passing day, yet the answers she sought remained elusive. Until one morning, as sunlight streamed through her window, she understood. The very act of begging held her desires at bay. The truth dawns like the morning sun. Gratitude before manifestation is not merely wishful thinking, but the strongest evidence of unwavering faith. When you give thanks for what appears absent in the physical world, you declare its presence in the realm where all things begin. This declaration, voiced with genuine appreciation, forms an unshakable bridge between the unseen and the seen. Consider how a seed, though buried in darkness, already contains the full pattern of its flowering. Your gratitude acts similarly. It recognizes the complete form of your desire while it still rests in the soil of consciousness. Through thanksgiving, you water this seed with the certainty of its blooming. In the quietness of his countryside home, Virgil faced declining health with a revolutionary approach. Instead of focusing on his symptoms, he began each dawn with heartfelt thanks for the vitality flowing through his body. "I am grateful for this strength," he would say, even as his muscles still felt weak. Week by week, his body responded to this inner conviction of wellness. His gratitude became a healing force, drawing forth the very strength he celebrated. This reveals the supreme law. Gratitude is not a response to receiving. It is the power that draws forth what you seek. Like music that precedes dancers taking their positions, your thanksgiving arranges the conditions for manifestation. The universe cannot help but move in harmony with your song of appreciation. When you thank the universe for something not yet visible, you demonstrate mastery over time itself. You step outside the linear progression of events, acknowledging that in the eternal now, all things are already complete. This knowing, expressed through gratitude, dissolves the illusion of waiting and creates an atmosphere where your desire naturally materializes. The practice is simple, yet powerful. From now, whisper thanks for your desire as though it were already delivered, letting gratitude act as the anchor of arrival. Chapter 25. The Law of Inner Royalty. In the quiet depths of an antique shop, Hazel arranged delicate treasures with trembling hands, always apologizing for taking up space, always shrinking from customer questions. For years she lived small, believing herself unworthy of attention or respect. Yet one morning, while polishing a tarnished crown, something stirred within her soul. She began holding herself differently, not with arrogance, but with the simple dignity of one who knows their inherent worth. No longer did she whisper responses or avert her eyes. Instead, she shared her knowledge of antiquities with quiet confidence. To her amazement, customers began asking for her by name, seeking her expertise, treating her shop as a sanctuary of wisdom. The universe responds not to what you request, but to what you embody in the depths of your being. Like a royal court that recognizes true nobility without announcement, life arranges itself around your inner certainty of worth. Your consciousness carries an invisible crown that the world must acknowledge. Consider Clarence, who swept floors at the City Theater for decades. Where once he worked with his eyes downcast, he began carrying himself with the dignity of one who knew his work held purpose. He cleaned not as a mere janitor, but as a guardian of beauty, treating each task as sacred. Without seeking recognition, he found himself honored at the theater's centennial celebration, praised for his dedication to preserving the art of performance through his quiet stewardship. The law operates with perfect precision. What you honor within yourself, others must honor as well. The world has no choice but to reflect back the level of dignity you maintain in your own consciousness. This is not pride or pretense, but rather an alignment with your true nature as a sovereign being. When you walk through your days believing in your inherent worth, reality rearranges itself to match this conviction. Doors that once seemed closed begin to open. Opportunities appear as if by divine right, and others naturally respond to the quiet authority you carry within. The secret lies not in demanding respect, but in assuming it as your natural state. Like a king or queen who needs no announcement of their station, your inner certainty radiates outward, commanding recognition through presence alone. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, declare silently, "I am seated in sovereignty," and rise tomorrow with the quiet glow of royalty. Chapter 26. The Silence That Commands. In a bustling flower shop, Vera arranged bouquets while customers chattered endlessly around her. She noticed that the more she spoke of her hopes for the business, the more those hopes seemed to scatter like petals in the wind. Yet when she began working in peaceful silence, holding her vision quietly within, each arrangement seemed to attract exactly the right buyer. The truth lies waiting in the depths of stillness. When you cease the constant declaration of your desires, your belief gains a sacred intensity. Like a deep well that holds power in its unmoving waters, silence concentrates your convictions until they become unshakable. Think of sound as ripples across a pond, disturbing the surface but never reaching the depths. Your words, however positive, can sometimes dilute the pure energy of belief. But in silence, your certainty grows dense, heavy with creative force. Wilbur understood this principle when bidding for the largest contract of his career. While others boasted of their capabilities, he maintained a composed silence, carrying within him the unwavering knowledge of his selection. He made his presentation with quiet assurance and returned to his office, holding his conviction in stillness. Within days, the contract was his, drawn by the magnetic power of his silent certainty. The universe responds most powerfully to the unspoken command of absolute belief. It is not moved by the volume of your declarations, but by the depth of your silent knowledge. Like the force of gravity, which pulls without sound, yet cannot be denied, your silent certainty exercises an invisible authority over circumstances. In the quiet spaces between thoughts, your belief gains strength. Each moment of silence becomes a vault where your convictions mature into manifestation. The world must bend to what you hold in stillness, for silent certainty carries the weight of natural law. Take 10 silent breaths, each affirming wordlessly that what you desire is already complete, letting silence become command. This practice turns breath into both altar and language. As you lie or sit quietly, begin by noticing the rhythm already present, the tide that rises and falls without your instruction. Then, as you inhale and exhale, allow each cycle to carry an unspoken knowing that what you have longed for is not a future tense, but a reality woven now. No words need be shaped on the tongue. The silence itself is the statement, the breath itself the decree. With each of the 10 breaths, feel yourself growing less concerned with asking and more steeped in having. Inhale as if drawing into your chest the fullness of a dream already lived. Exhale as if releasing the last trace of doubt. The silence between breaths is not emptiness but resonance, as though the unseen world listens and responds. By the 5th or 6th breath, you may sense a shift, effort receding, assurance arriving, as if creation recognizes its own reflection in your stillness. Chapter 27. The Circle of Completion. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, Maybelle stood at her small flower stand, gazing at the empty spaces where customers should be. Each morning she would arrange her blooms with care, picturing a thriving business that seemed eternally distant. Yet in those quiet moments between sales, wisdom began to unfold within her like a lotus opening to dawn. The ancient truth revealed itself. What she viewed as a faraway destination already existed, complete and whole, waiting for her consciousness to step into its reality. Just as a circle has no beginning or end, her dream was not a point to reach, but a present completeness, asking for recognition. Time itself speaks in circles, not lines. When you understand this mystery, you grasp that nothing needs to be created, all is already finished. Your role is simply to enter the completed circle of your desire, to dwell there in the silence of acceptance. Maybelle began living from this awareness, treating her prosperous business not as a hope, but as an existing reality she was growing into recognizing. Within weeks, customers appeared as if they had always been there, drawn by her quiet certainty. In another town, Grover had spent years pushing toward success in his carpentry shop, always seeing it as a future achievement. Then he understood. His success was not waiting to be built. It was already built. By accepting this truth, by living from the end instead of toward it, his reputation for excellence seemed to catch up with his inner knowing. Orders flowed in, praise followed, and opportunities emerged as naturally as leaves unfurling in spring. The principle stands revealed. What you seek is seeking you, already complete. The distance you perceive is not in space or time, but in consciousness. Your dream is not waiting to be created. It waits only to be entered, like a room whose door stands open. This truth nullifies waiting, dissolves distance, and transforms seeking into finding. When you grasp that completion already exists, the very atmosphere around you shifts to match this knowing. The universe has no choice but to reflect what you accept as finished. Each night, close the loop. See yourself stepping into a life already completed, with no waiting left. Begin by dimming the mind's forward lean. As you settle into bed, name, quietly and without drama, the few qualities that define your already complete life: steadiness, generosity, creative flow, or whatever is true for you. Let your breath match the feeling of nothing owed, nothing missing. Then, with eyelids heavy, Picture yourself stepping across an invisible threshold into rooms you already inhabit. The morning light in your kitchen, work done with clarity, relationships at ease. Don't chase detail. Let sufficiency be the main character. Now, embody it. Relax your jaw, widen the back of your ribs, and let your hands rest as if every task has been lovingly finished. In your mind, walk through a single scene that proves completion. An inbox calmly closed, a studio tidied, a conversation that ends with soft smiles. Whisper once, already complete. If doubt flickers, don't argue. Include it in the completed picture, as a small cloud in an otherwise open sky. The aim isn't to convince, but to inhabit. 5 or 6 breaths inside the feeling of no waiting left. Close the loop by letting sleep be the seal. Imagine a gentle door easing shut behind you. The day outside, the finished life within. Give the night one clear instruction. Keep what matches this. Then release the practice entirely, allowing the body to fall through its own quiet gravity. By morning, notice even 1 inch of carryover. A calmer pulse, a simpler choice. That inch is enough. Repeat nightly, and let evidence accumulate where effort used to stand. Chapter 28. Reality's Unfailing Obedience. A gentle dawn broke over the hillside as Sylvia stood at her window, doubt gnawing at her heart. For years she had questioned why life seemed to resist her desires, why her dreams remained distant despite her yearning. Until one morning, like a veil lifting from ancient wisdom, she glimpsed the truth that had always surrounded her. Every circumstance in her life, the delayed promotions, the strained relationships, the financial struggles, reflected not life's indifference, but her own deeply held beliefs with perfect fidelity. The universe had never once failed to manifest what she truly accepted as real. It was simply that she had unknowingly planted seeds of doubt and harvested their natural fruit. This revelation shook her to her core. The power had always rested within her, yet she had attributed her experiences to external forces. Reality had been her faithful servant, bringing forth exact mirrors of her inner convictions, both those she cherished and those she feared. The law operates with unwavering precision. What you settle upon as truth in consciousness must externalize in experience. This is not a principle that can be bargained with or evaded. It simply is, like gravity or the turning of the earth. Lester, a shopkeeper in the village square, discovered this same truth through his own journey. For months, his inner dialogue had been filled with worry about declining business. "Customers are scarce these days," he would mutter while arranging his wares. And so they were, with perfect obedience to his assumption. Then, guided by this understanding, he began speaking differently within himself. "My shop draws exactly the right customers and business flows abundantly," became his quiet declaration. He did not shout it or force it. He simply allowed this new truth to settle in his mind like evening dew upon grass. Within weeks, new patrons appeared, as if summoned by an invisible hand. His shelves required more frequent restocking, and his ledger showed mounting profits. Reality had not changed its nature. It had simply reflected his revised inner knowing, as it always must. This principle stands immutable. Reality never rebels against your beliefs. It cannot. Its very nature is to mold itself around your settled assumptions with perfect precision. What appears as resistance is merely faithful reflection. reality showing you exactly what you have accepted as true. In the depths of night, as the world grows quiet, this practice emerges with sacred power. With reverence, remind yourself each night, what I accept as true will be, for reality always responds. Chapter 29. Becoming Too Powerful. In a quiet village where hope often dimmed, Cecilia spent her days feeling small and insignificant, watching life pass by as though she were a mere spectator. Each morning she would gaze at the grand houses on the hill, believing such abundance belonged to others, never to her. Yet one autumn evening, something within her shifted, a recognition that her smallness was not a decree of fate, but a choice she had made in consciousness. Through steadfast inner work, she began to understand that her capabilities extended far beyond physical effort. Where once she had struggled to make ends meet in her modest shop, she now found herself moving with a quiet confidence that drew customers naturally. Her transformation came not from working longer hours or learning new skills, but from stabilizing her belief in her own inherent power. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, operates through immutable laws. When you plant your feet firmly in unwavering belief, reality has no choice but to conform to your inner knowing. This is not wishful thinking or mere positive attitude. It is the activation of a force as real as gravity, as consistent as the turning of the earth. Consider young Amos Jr., whose early life was marked by financial uncertainty. Rather than chase money with desperation, he chose to settle into a deep conviction of abundance. He moved through his days with the ease of one who knows provision is natural. Soon, opportunities appeared as if summoned. Investments yielded unexpected returns, new business ventures flourished, and resources aligned with mathematical precision. The power you wield through stabilized belief transcends logic and defies conventional explanation. It is not about positive thinking alone, but about achieving a state of knowing so complete that doubt finds no purchase in your consciousness. When you reach this plateau of certainty, you discover that reality has always been waiting to match your inner conviction. Your belief, when steadied beyond questioning, becomes a command that the universe cannot ignore. Like a key turning in a lock, it opens doors that seemed forever sealed. This is not magic, it is law, as dependable as the rising sun. The practice. As you prepare for sleep tonight, settle into your bed with this knowing. Your belief itself makes you irresistible to all that you desire. Feel this truth not as a hope, but as a completed fact. Let your entire being rest in the absolute certainty that your inner conviction is the magnet that draws your good to you. This is not an exercise in imagination, but a recognition of what has always been true. Chapter 30. Living the Law Effortlessly. In a small seaside town, Nora spent years trying to master the art of manifestation. Each morning she would meticulously write her affirmations, visualize with intense concentration, and strain to maintain perfect thoughts. Yet prosperity seemed to dance just beyond her reach, until one autumn evening when everything changed. Sitting by her window, watching leaves drift on the breeze, Nora suddenly understood. The leaves weren't trying to fall. They simply followed their nature. In that moment, she released her grip on effort and settled into a quiet knowing. Her art studio, once struggling, began filling with clients who appeared as naturally as rain. She hadn't pushed or pulled at life. She had simply allowed her inner certainty to express itself. The teaching reveals this highest truth. Mastery comes not through force, but through acceptance. When you cease struggling to believe and simply rest in knowing, reality has no choice but to mirror your consciousness. Like water finding its level, life arranges itself around your settled conviction without resistance. Consider Phineas, who managed a small trading company. Where others rushed and worried about market fluctuations, he moved with unhurried confidence. He didn't need to convince himself of success. He lived from success as naturally as breathing. Soon, opportunities sought him out. Deals aligned effortlessly, and even competitors began asking for his guidance. His calm authority drew circumstances into perfect arrangement, not because he tried to command them, but because he had become one with the law of belief. What Phineas embodied was not a technique, but a state of being. He had transcended the need to make things happen, and instead allowed them to unfold from his unwavering consciousness. Reality simply adjusted itself around him, like air filling a space. This is the final secret. When you truly understand the law of belief, effort dissolves into ease. You no longer need to struggle with your thoughts or force your mind into positive patterns. Instead, you rest in the natural authority of your being, knowing that reality must conform to your settled assumption. It becomes as simple as the sun rising, not because you willed it, but because it is the nature of things. In this state of effortless mastery, you discover that you were always too powerful. Every circumstance in your life, whether welcomed or unwanted, arose from this law. Now, functioning consciously from this understanding, you move through life with quiet certainty, watching as reality obeys your beliefs without strain or struggle. As sleep comes, whisper gently, "It is easy," for reality obeys belief without effort. Letting rest itself seal the teaching. This practice invites you into the subtle threshold where waking thought gives way to dreaming openness. As you lie down, soften your body and let your breath become unhurried. The whispered phrase is not meant as a command, but as a gentle seed, slipped into the soil of the subconscious, where it may take root without resistance. In this tender state, you are less a thinker and more a receiver, allowing the words to sink deeper than daylight reasoning could ever carry them. The statement itself carries a quiet truth. That belief, once settled, reshapes the way reality is received and mirrored back to you. By repeating it softly, you loosen the grip of doubt and effort, letting the mind unclench its need to control outcomes. Here, rest becomes not just recovery but a teacher, carrying the lesson into the hidden currents where impressions are woven into the fabric of being. Sleep then is not escape, but a workshop of unseen alignment. With time, this ritual begins to carry its own momentum. The body learns to soften at the sound of the phrase. The heart trusts the simplicity of belief, and the mind yields its need for struggle. Each night becomes a renewal of ease, a reminder that creation is not strained, but natural. By letting sleep close the circle, you awaken more quietly, carrying the resonance of the night's affirmation into the shape of your day. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. The journey concludes here, though the practice continues in every heartbeat forward. You have seen that belief is not wish but law, not frailty but power, not randomness, but rhythm. At first, these truths may have seemed too grand for daily use, but the stories have shown what life affirms again and again. That belief is the master, and reality, the servant. Through the tales of Nora finding ease, Phineas embodying certainty, and countless others who discovered their innate authority, you have witnessed the same principle at work. Reality shapes itself around conviction as naturally as water takes the form of its vessel. These were not mere stories of luck or coincidence, but demonstrations of an unchanging law that governs all manifestation. To wield this consciously is to step into sovereignty over your existence. You need no permission to command circumstances, no external validation to shape events. The prologue spoke of commanding reality. Now you see that reality has never been free to disobey you. It has only reflected faithfully what you dared or feared to believe. Every moment of doubt, every surge of confidence, every settled assumption has been creative. There were no exceptions, no moments when the law suspended itself. Even in times when you felt powerless, you were wielding this force, unconsciously perhaps, but with perfect precision. Now, awakened to this truth, you step forward with the serene understanding that your belief itself is the author of circumstances. Walk from here as one who knows every assumption is creative, every conviction a command, and every belief a seed that must bloom. The power does not grow stronger with practice. It is always absolute. Your awareness of it simply deepens, becoming as natural as your own breath. You now stand in the serene awareness that reality cannot ignore you, will not contradict you, and forever obeys you. And in this knowing, you rise as one who is, indeed, too powerful.
If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.